Well, if you've just joined us, let's give you an update on what's happening with the Nedbank Cup. It is still goalless at the Danny Craven Stadium in Stellenbosch, where Sekhukhune United have visited Stellenbosch FC. They are chasing a spot in the Nedbank Cup final. We'll keep you posted on that as it progresses. Right now, let's talk about boxing, where it seems to be making all the right noise at the moment. Boxers are active. Broadcasters are giving the sport much needed airtime. And so it's only fitting that we here and on Sports Live also give one of the most popular sports in this country some airtime. Joining us via Zoom is former IBO Cruiserweight title holder Kevin the KO Kid Lorena. And in studio with us we have somebody who's trained many world champions along his time. But to my generation, we know him as Mr. Simunye. We are one. It's Colin Nathan, everybody. And Kevin Lorena. Kevin, where are you joining us from?
I'm joining you from home, just here in my living room.
Oh, where? Which part of the country?
I live in Four Ways.
I'm wondering why you're not in studio then. You live down the road.
It's a Sunday night. I've got to rest. I'm fighting next week.
All these excuses, these young
No excuses. I actually buy that excuse. It's a fair comment. It's a fair excuse. He's getting ready for a big fight. So
okay, right. Yeah. Kevin, so the loss to Daniel Dubois, how much of a setback was it for your heavyweight ambitions? And have you considered maybe going back where you were quite successful?
To be honest, I wouldn't say it's changed my mind or anything. It just made me a little bit hungrier and made me realize I need to reassess a few things and see where I went wrong. You know, I took the constructive criticism out of the loss, and I'm the only person to blame with regards to the loss. You know, I'm the one who got caught in the third round. I'm the one who got stopped. You know, that you can say, a lot of people can say, well, the ref stopped the fight early, or blah blah blah. Well, they didn't stop him in the first round when I had him down. Well, it's over now. So you need to move forward. And I just realized that, I had to learn how to lose again. That's the biggest thing. I didn't lose in the last 8 years. I hadn't lost for 8 years. So the biggest thing I got out of it was learning how to lose again. And then obviously heavyweight boxing, it's the big time, you know. So the big guys can really hit hard. And 1 minute you got a guy down, the next minute you find yourself on your back. So it's just about how to get up. The lesson I got out of it was how to get up off the canvas, dust yourself off and move forward. It sounds pretty cliche, but a lot of fighters will experience that in their careers, and it was my first time having to experience that. So it was a good learning curve, and I'm just looking forward to getting back to winning ways.
Yeah, he talks about falling, which is inevitable in any sport, but especially for boxers. You as a trainer, I'm sure you've had many boxers who've had to dig themselves up, go back, change their careers in the case of Kevin. How do you motivate a boxer that's trying to get back to where they were?
Well, I mean, with Kevin, are you talking about Kevin specifically or just generally? Generally, it's always hard because losing hurts, and it's got to hurt. Like, if you're not feeling something, like we saw 2-3 weekends ago, Ryan Garcia taking a knee with a body shot where most of the world feels that he could have got up and made a stand and carried on fighting. Not saying that he would have won, because he probably would have got thumped. But needless to say that you can't quit in boxing. It's just one of those things. There's, those things. So often you got to get into the mental state of a fighter's head. And with regards to a guy losing, it's never easy. It's never easy, especially at the level that Kevin lost at, and especially when you're world level and you lose. And it's really a hard situation where you're on top of your game and all of a sudden you lose. It doesn't matter how you lose, you still lose. And I think with regards to Kevin, the situation isn't about him winning next week. For me, the situation is there's two aspects to Kevin's game that I think I'm more intrigued about how he fights as opposed to him winning, because we expect him to win. The thing is that how does he deal with it mentally, that he came within a whisper of causing a major upset in the world, stopping Daniel Dubois? And the other thing is the losing aspect of it. So those are the two mental aspects that I think I'm intrigued to watch Kevin fight on Saturday, because I want to see how he does after those two scenarios mentally.
Yeah. Kevin, let's talk about that fight next weekend. Riyad Maher is somebody who's ranked at 2 spots ahead of you in terms of rankings. So what makes him dangerous? I mean, Colin thinks you're going to beat him now.
Well, thanks, Cole. Riyad Maher is a tough competitor in the sense of he's had 31 fights and only 1 loss. He's the former Cruiserweight WBA regular champion, and he lost to a very legitimate Cruiserweight in that of Arsene Golamarian. So his record does speak for itself. Having said that, I back myself too. So I know what I have to do to win. And like Cole said, it's how you come back. The most important thing, and why he's going to tune in, is he wants to see how I'm going to fight after that harsh loss that I had. And I'm just excited to show everybody that I'm back, and I hope everything goes my way, and it's going to be a good night of boxing.
Yeah, so let's talk about heavyweight boxing, for example, where it is right now globally. The likes of Tyson Fury, Usyk, as well as likes of Anthony Joshua, for example, they seem to be attracting a lot of big crowds, you know, a lot of numbers. So do you believe that they are, in terms of where they've taken the sport, have they brought the sport back into the forefront?
Yes, I think, obviously boxing, the heavyweight, the glamour division, you could call it that, because of all the big names in the past, there were a lot of heavyweights, but there have been a lot of smaller weight divisions who have made a massive, massive statement in the world of boxing. So I'd say those names that you mentioned have paved the way for guys like myself, because I'm a bigger guy in the heavier divisions, that being cruiserweight and heavyweight. But there's also a lot of smaller fighters like Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, Canelo, the Gervonta Davis, to name a few, who are paving the way for the smaller weight division guys. So I think those guys have played a significant role in heavyweight boxing, but there's obviously more weights than heavyweight. But I do believe that the heavyweight game is a game, the heavyweight sport, should I say, is a sport that a lot of people who don't know boxing watch. And I think that they have paved the way for guys like myself. And I just, I'm a South African. We're from a small country down south, just trying to be on the big stage, and as long as we keep winning and making noise locally, we'll be heard overseas. And I was just, like Colin said, a fingertip away from that, and we are there on the biggest stage. So I'm just proudly South African and proud to be doing what I'm doing for South African boxing.
Yeah, what do you believe those guys have taken the sport of boxing?
Yes and no. I mean, if you look at the different reigns of heavyweights over the years, it's all relative. Mike Tyson created just so much excitement. And then if you look at Lennox Lewis's reign, I particularly never enjoyed his reign. And then Vladimir Klitschko came along, and then I kind of missed Lennox Lewis. So if you think about it, there was always that expression in boxing that there's boxing and then there's heavyweights. But I felt that the heavyweights took a dip. And now that Fury's the main guy, and because he does speak inappropriately, because he's outspoken, but you also need to remember he doesn't look like an athlete. So what happened was you saw the couch potato looking at Tyson Fury thinking, well, look, I got a body like his, but people forget that Fury can really, really fight. When I first watched him, I thought, what's the big hype? But all he did was win. And his brutal wars with Deontay Wilder were like, well, wait a minute, this guy's for real. So there's always going to be those generations where some of the heavyweights aren't great, or they had personalities like a toothpick. It's all relative to what we're watching. So Fury does create a lot of excitement into the sport. AJ's kind of been found out 3 times now, twice by Usyk, and I still believe that when he lost to Andy Ruiz, he's never been the same kind of fighter. So again, you've got to look at personalities. Tyson Fury's a personality. Vladimir Klitschko, although he was a great heavyweight, definitely in the Hall of Fame now. Did I find his reign boring? I have to admit that I did.
Oh, well, okay, you mentioned something quite important, though. And what Kevin is talking about with the sport, that he has access to a lot of fights because of where he is heavyweight as well as cruiserweight. But what of those guys? I mean, the popularity that he speaks of comes with the television coverage, for example, which comes with all these boxers. But what of those fighters who don't get the same coverage? They also need the money. So
this is what I tell my fighters, and it's a great question. As long as you keep winning, you can't be denied. So if you keep winning, those broadcasters are going to be interested in you. If you're knocking guys out like Manny Pacquiao did, and he's not from America, he was commanding major money on HBO, right? And other pay channels as well. So it's all about situations of, if these two hands can knock things out and knock people out, then there's going to be some sort of marketing ability for that fighter. But again, I'm going to say, as long as you keep winning and you're winning impressively, you won't be denied.
Well, I mean, you can't win for the rest of your life, Kevin. So what's life outside for you, outside of boxing?
Life outside of boxing is obviously spending loads of time with my family. I do have some small businesses on the side that I have on the go. So, there is always life after boxing. But, boxing is something you cannot do half-heartedly. And I think I'm fortunate enough that I've got myself into a position that I can survive off my boxing and the endorsements that I have from major blue chip brands like Under Armour and all the big blue chip brands that support me. But there is life after boxing, and we don't know when the end is going to come, But we will know. Well, I will know, because I don't ever want to be a journeyman in the sport. But I do have businesses on the side that are taking care of themselves, and that when I finish boxing, are going to flourish even more. But having said that, right now my focus is wholeheartedly on boxing. Boxing something you can't do half-heartedly. I'm sure Colin will agree. You need to give it your all. The minute you do the sport half-heartedly, you won't make it to where I've made it, So, and I still want to achieve so much more. I believe I haven't achieved really what I want to achieve, and I just want to keep on going until I can't go anymore, and just see what we can do. Keep knocking out doors, proving people wrong, and doing my country proud.
Yeah, I mean, he talks about that balance. I'm sure you advise your fighters a number of times to make sure that they strike that balance. How easy or how difficult that is?
Well, let me just go back to that point of you can't do it half-heartedly. So in boxing, it's one of those sports where giving your very best isn't good enough. It really isn't good enough. You have to go beyond giving your very best. And often, it's life-threatening, because boxing is a very life-threatening sport. Make no qualms about it. But unfortunately or fortunately, if you want to be good, or if you want to be very good, or if you want to be great, you got to go to that point beyond giving your very best. It's like when fighters in the dressing room tell their managers or coaches, man, I did my best, I gave it my all. Well, you got to go beyond that. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's what separates you being from good to great.
Well, final one before we let you go. Who's the face of boxing right now? They seem to be fighting.
Well, I think Canelo fighting this weekend in Mexico, but he's, like I've said it in previous interviews, he's on the decline, and I think that was proven against Ryder last night. Who is the face of boxing? That's a really good question. Gervonta Davis. Not a real good role model for the youth, though, considering his past and what he gets up to. But he's definitely one of the most exciting fighters in the world. The face of boxing right now, I think it's open for debate right now. It really is open for debate, because you've got Usyk, you've got Fury, you've got Monster, you now got Davis. I really, really think it's open for debate.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing, maybe you give us an official answer to that one of these days. Maybe, Kevin, you can take that title of being the face of boxing. At least you are in South African boxing. I like to believe you. Thank you so much for your time. Do enjoy time with the family. So your little one is waiting for you guys, for you to say goodnight now. Thank you so much for joining us on Sports Live.
Thank you.
I'm sure SABC viewers will see you very soon. You live in this place.
Sure.
You should give him a bed here one of these days. Colin Nathan, as well as Kevin Lorena, joining us this evening to unpack what's happening in the world of boxing. After the break, we chat all things Premier Soccer League, as well as the most exciting derbies in the African continent. Stay tuned.